Do you struggle to maintain weight loss but desperately want to feel good in your own skin, confident in your clothes, and improve your overall health? If so, you're home. Hey, I'm Sam. I'm an elder millennial, dietitian, specialist in weight management, and former functioning fat girl. I learned how to win at weight loss by breaking free from diet culture PTSD. My mission is to marry the science with practical, real-life strategies because we all know if it's not realistic, it's not happening. Are you ready to ditch diet culture and learn how to win at weight loss? Grab your water bottle and let's go. Before we get started on today's amazing episode, I just want to remind you that if you're not subscribed to my email newsletter, More Than a Number Weekly, you're missing out. I break down the most important points of these podcast episodes, provide you with effective freebies, and give you first dibs on any new offers or programs that I'm running. This is the best way to stay in contact with me, and you can even send in ideas for specific topics you want me to break down on the podcast. So don't miss out and go to bit.ly/MTAN weekly. MTAN like more than a number. So it's bit.ly, B as in boy, it.ly/MTAN weekly. Okay, let's dig into the episode. So y'all know I pretty much came out of the womb on a diet. I've done them all, and some multiple times over. I know we've all gone through the keto craze of the last decade or so, and I'm going to show my age here. Some people don't realize the keto diet has actually been around for more than 100 years. Way back in the 1900s and way back in the 1920s, it was found that keeping your body in a state of ketosis can actually significantly improve seizures for people with seizure disorders like epilepsy, more specifically in children. So it was really for kids diagnosed with epilepsy to control the seizures. And then decades later, in the 1970s, a certain doctor you may have heard of by the name of Robert Atkins made it popular as a diet to lose weight. If you didn't catch on to that and you're like, who? The Atkins diet. If you're not familiar, I'll give you a quick rundown of what the Atkins diet was, aka a ketogenic diet, and my experience with it. So our body's main preferred fuel source, what our bodies naturally want to use as its main source of fuel, is carbohydrates. And when we put our body into a state of ketosis, that means it switches from using carbs as its main source to using fat as its main source. Basically, your brain and your body start using ketones instead of glucose for energy. By the way, if you've never done keto or the Atkins diet and the wheels are spinning in your head right now, like, oh, so if your body is using fat for fuel instead of carb, then it's burning all the fat. So should I be doing the keto diet? No, you are not burning more body fat necessarily on a keto diet versus any other diet that puts you in a calorie deficit. It's burning fat from dietary sources, not just your body fat. A lot of people think keto is a high protein diet, but actually it's not. It has a decent amount of protein, but it's actually a very high fat diet with a good amount of protein and very, very little carb. So as you can imagine, this poor carb-loving Italian girl's heart was like not at all amused on this diet. Don't get me wrong, I love a good cheeseburger, but just eating bacon cheeseburgers with no bun and no French fries to go with it was like not at all the vibe for me. Once or twice, okay, fine, but every day, not my jam. I remember for my treats or snacks, I would eat a bowl of Cool Whip with peanuts in it. And I didn't even really like it that much. I just was desperately trying to find some kind of joy out of what I was eating. And that was the closest thing to a dessert I could come up with that didn't knock me out of ketosis. Because that's the other thing about, a keto or Atkins diet is you have to actually confirm that you're in ketosis, because there are a lot of people walking around these days thinking they're on the keto diet and their body is nowhere even close to being in ketosis. So how do we know for sure, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. The easiest and cheapest way to know if you're in ketosis is by testing your urine. So there I was. I believe I was in high school at the time, sucking down bacon cheeseburgers and bowls of Cool Whip with peanuts and peeing on a stick multiple times a day. Oh, and then there's the breath and the body odor, because yeah, some side effects of being in ketosis is terrible breath and body odor. So there's that. But hey, if you're losing weight, who cares, right? So much I would tell my younger self. But the most important message is I absolutely hated that diet. And since I hated it, what happened? I sucked it up and dealt with the misery for a while, lost 10 or 15 pounds. And then once I couldn't take it anymore, I went totally off the rails and gained back 20. Sound familiar to anyone? Well, hey guys, welcome back to More Than a Number. Today's episode is one that I feel very strongly about. Not that I don't feel very strongly about all of them, but because it's something I have not only experienced for myself time and time again, but I also see it with my clients time and time again. We are going to talk about the difference between loving and enjoying food and depending on food to cope. So love and dependence are two very different things, but unfortunately get lumped together too often. And more importantly, how to build a relationship with food where it actually supports you instead of something that feels like it controls you. Because here's the truth. Food can absolutely be love. I fully believe that. I want to really emphasize it because I think when we go on a weight loss journey or when we're quote unquote trying to be good, most people think we have to be miserable and not like what we're eating. We can love, appreciate, and respect food, but it can also become something we rely on in ways that don't actually serve us. We've been talking a lot recently about support versus sabotage, and that's a way that we can actually sabotage ourselves by depending on food to cope with life. And if you've ever felt like you're constantly thinking about food, you feel good or bad based on what you ate, or you've tried to force yourself into diets that just feel miserable, like me on the dang Atkins diet, this episode is for you. I remember thinking at the time, this is just what it takes. Like, if I want the results, I have to suffer. I have to cut everything out that I love, aka the carbs. I have to force myself to eat in a way that doesn't even feel like me. And I see this mindset all the dang time with my clients. But here's what I know now and what I want you to hear today. If the way you're eating feels like punishment, I'm sorry, but it's not going to last. And not only is it not going to last, it's going to damage your relationship with food. Because instead of loving food, you start fearing it or depending on it. You start resenting it. You're bitter about it. All of my coaching programs are called Winning at Weight Loss, and that's not because I teach you how to lose the most weight as quickly as possible. That's because to truly win is to learn how to maintain for the long haul, how to create an overall healthy lifestyle so that when you do reach your weight goals, you stay there because you feel great and you're happy. So let's talk more about the difference between loving food and depending on food. Loving food looks like enjoying what you eat without guilt. Choosing foods that make your body feel good, feel strong, feel confident. Having flexibility so you avoid the all or nothing constant starting over cycle. Eating in a way that supports your goals and your life, your family traditions, your cultural traditions, all that good stuff. Depending on food looks like using food as your only coping tool to get through life's ups and downs. Feeling out of control around certain foods, constantly starting over, the whole I'll start again on Monday thing. Extreme restriction followed by overeating or binging. And here's the nuance of that, because you know your girl is always going to give you the little nuances. The actual food itself is not the problem. It's the relationship with the food. And I want to really hit on something here. A lot of times I hear, I just love those foods. And we're usually talking about the chips, the sweets, the takeout, the really calorie-dense, hyper-palatable foods. But I want you to pause for a second and really ask yourself this. Do you overeat on those foods because you actually love the food itself? Or do you love what you think it's going to make you feel like? Because those are two very, very different things. What I see over and over again is that it's not even really about the food itself. It's about the expectation of the reward you think the food is going to give you. It's the thought of, this is going to comfort me. This is going to help me relax. This is my reward after a long day. And in that moment, it feels like love. It feels like relief. It feels like something you need. It feels like you're turning to your best friend, the one that's always there for you. But you know I always keep it real with you guys, so let's be super honest and real with ourselves here. What happens after one of those overindulgences or binge episodes? Because I don't know about you guys, but for most of us, myself included, it's not, oh, I just ate all that and I feel amazing. It's, why did I do that? Why do I have no discipline or willpower? What is wrong with me? I didn't even really enjoy that as much as I thought I would. Now I feel gross and uncomfortable, physically and mentally. And then comes the guilt and the shame and the I'll start over tomorrow or I'll start again on Monday. And that cycle, that's not love. That's dependence. Because when you truly love something, it doesn't leave you feeling worse afterwards. Love is supportive. It's nourishing. It's aligned with how you want to feel long term. Dependence is reactive. It's a temporary relief, followed by a crash, physically or emotionally. So instead of labeling those foods as my favorite foods or the foods that I really love, I want you to get curious in those moments and ask yourself, what am I actually looking for right now? Is it comfort? Is it stress relief? Do I need a break? Am I looking for something to look forward to? Because food might feel like the solution, but if it's consistently followed by guilt and frustration, it's probably not actually solving the problem. And that's where we come back to building a way of eating that you can actually enjoy. Because when your meals are satisfying, balanced and consistent, you don't feel that same pull. You don't feel like food is something you need to escape into. Now, you can still have those foods and enjoy them. I'm certainly not saying you can never eat them, but you're no longer depending on them to change how you feel. And that is how we move from dependence back to love. We shift the mindset to understand that food can still be love. We can still love the food we eat and love what it's doing for us. I think a lot of people here don't depend on food and assume that means I have to stop enjoying it. I have to be miserable and hate what I'm eating. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. Food can still be comforting. It can still be enjoyable and social and part of your cultural and family traditions, something you genuinely look forward to. That's part of a healthy relationship. The goal is not to remove the emotional connection. The goal is to make sure it's not your only connection. Let me say that again. A healthy relationship with food, the goal is not to remove the emotional connection. The goal is to make sure it's not your only connection. So the question becomes, how do we do this? How do we move from extremes to something that's sustainable for the long term? I want to give you 4 really simple, practical steps that you can start implementing now to improve your relationship with food. Are you ready? Okay. Step 1, stop trying to change everything at once. We are not going to change the world overnight. This is where most of us go wrong. We decide, I'm starting over on Monday, and then we try to change literally everything. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, our snacks, our workouts, our water, our steps, our everything. And what happens? It feels too overwhelming. It feels restrictive. We feel deprived. And it feels like we're constantly thinking about and stressing over food. That's not loving food. That's fighting it. So pick 1 or 2 things, not everything, to start working on. And step 2, we want addition versus subtraction. This is one of the biggest and most impactful shifts that I teach my clients. Instead of asking, what do I need to cut out? Ask, what can I add in that will actually make my body function better? Few examples, you could add protein to breakfast. If your breakfast mostly consists of other things, add some protein to it. Add more veggies to your lunches. Add in a structured, intentional snack instead of just grazing on whatever we can get our hands on, or skipping a snack altogether and then overeating later. You don't need a complete overhaul. You need strategic additions, because when you add the right things, you feel more full and more satisfied for longer. Your energy improves, your cravings decrease, the food noise decreases, and naturally some of the less helpful food and habits start to decrease and fade away over time. So what can you add in? And when I work with people in my Winning at Weight Loss breakthrough session, I help you kind of go through your entire day and week of eating and pick out what 1 or 2 things will be that you can start to add in. In step 3, we want to zoom out. We want to think big picture. Get out of that quick fix mode. Because if your mindset is, I need to lose as much weight as fast as possible, you're going to choose these extreme approaches that you hate, and it won't last. But if your mindset is, I want to feel better, function better, and build something that lasts, then your choices change. You start asking, will I still be able to do this next week? Will I still be able to do this next month? Can I do this when life be lifing and stuff's coming at me from every angle? That's where the real progress happens. So think big picture and not quick fix. And step 4, we want to build meals that you actually enjoy. This is huge because I see people all the time forcing themselves to eat foods that they don't even like just because they're allegedly healthy. They're trying to suck down meals that feel bland and boring because Joe Schmo on the internet said that they were good. And that's the other thing. Don't even get me started on all the influencers on TikTok and Instagram who make it seem like if you eat these meals, you too can lose 200 pounds in no time. I mean, I love seeing people's journeys, but it does rub me the wrong way when people are like, I lost 200 pounds by eating this. And then they show like this one specific meal. So that translates into people's heads like, oh, if I eat that one specific thing, then I can lose that weight also. But what if that one specific thing sucks and you don't like it? Also, it's no variety. It's like one thing. So we have got to get out of that. We have got to build things that we actually like. If you try something, like if you see a recipe on socials and it looks like you might like it and you try it and you do and you want to work that into your life, cool. But you don't have to. So we don't want to be like eating foods that we hate and thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to grin and bear it if it makes me lose weight, right? No, that is not the goal. We should like, dare I say, love the food that we're eating. And that might look like adding seasoning, sauces, different flavors, finding protein sources that we actually enjoy, getting creative with cooking methods, building meals that feel satisfying and not restrictive. Because when you enjoy your food, consistency becomes easier, you stop feeling deprived, and you stop rebounding or restarting 900 times later. And I want to say this because it matters. If you feel like I'm talking to you, like you've been depending on food to cope, that doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means you haven't been given better tools yet. So I focus heavily on this in my coaching. And when you book a breakthrough session with me, we do decide on those 1 or 2 things that you can start doing immediately to start moving the needle and finally start to feel better. So let's bring this all together and wrap it up. Today we talked about the difference between loving food and depending on it. And understanding that the food itself is really not the enemy. It's the relationship we build with it. We talked about how loving food includes enjoyment, flexibility, and nourishment. Depending on food often shows up as extremes, guilt, shame, and lack of control. And most importantly, you do not need to overhaul your entire diet to make progress. Instead, you want to focus on those 4 simple steps. 1, stop trying to change everything at once. Just pick 1 or 2 small things. Step 2, add before you subtract. The more beneficial things you start to add in, the more the not so beneficial things kind of naturally weed themselves out. Step 3, zoom out and think long term. Ditch the quick fix mentality. And lastly, step 4, we want to build meals that you actually enjoy eating. Because when you do that, you create a way of eating that supports your goals, feels sustainable, and actually allows you to love food again. If this episode resonated with you, I want you to take 1 thing from today and actually apply it. Just 1. Because remember, it's the small changes done consistently over time that create the real big results. And as always, this is about so much more than a number. I love you. God loves you. I'll see you here next week. Hey friend, I hope you feel empowered by this episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to share it with another friend who needs it? Also, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. Your reviews are what helps it get seen by more people who need it. Okay, Time to go show up for myself, and I hope you do the same. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Have a blessed day.